Every single day, you make hundreds of decisions about what to put in your mouth. You call it eating, you call it snacking, you call it a treat, but your body has a completely different name for it. Your body calls it war. And the moment that chocolate chip cookie gets close enough to smell, before you've taken a single bite, the battle has already begun, because the human body doesn't react to food when it arrives. It reacts the moment it's detected. Smell triggers saliva, saliva triggers enzymes, enzymes trigger hormones, and hormones trigger decisions. Molecular decisions happening thousands of times per second that will determine where every atom of that cookie ends up. In your muscles, in your blood, in your fat cells, in your thoughts. This is not a story about a snack. This is a story about the most sophisticated machine ever built, and what it does when you feed it something it never evolved to handle. Let's go inside. The teeth come down. What feels like a casual bite is actually a controlled demolition. Your molars generate up to 200 pounds of crushing force, fracturing a precisely engineered matrix of flour, fat, sugar, and chocolate into manageable fragments. It is mechanical breakdown, raw, powerful, and deeply underestimated. But the body doesn't wait for you to finish chewing. It never waits. The parotid glands, two soft masses tucked just below and in front of your ears, are already flooding your mouth with salivary amylase, a molecular enzyme with one job: find starch and destroy it. Long, complex carbohydrate chains begin snapping apart into shorter sugars while the food is still between your teeth. Digestion has already started and you haven't even swallowed. Then the sugar reaches your tongue, the papillae. Your taste receptors fire instantly. A signal screams up through the nervous system in milliseconds, and the brain's reward circuitry responds with a precise chemical release: dopamine, a neurotransmitter of anticipation, satisfaction, and motivation. You feel pleasure, a warmth, a sense that this was a good idea. Your body feels something else entirely. It feels a spike incoming. It feels a metabolic challenge on the horizon, and it begins preparing long before the food arrives. The tongue shapes the chewed mass into a tidy, compact package called a bolus, a rounded lump of partially digested food and saliva, formed with practiced muscular coordination you've never had to consciously think about. And with one powerful, coordinated swallow involving over 30 muscles firing in precise sequence, the mission goes deeper. The esophagus is not a passive tube. It is a muscular conveyor belt, a 10-inch long channel that squeezes in rhythmic, synchronized waves called peristalsis, pushing the bolus steadily downward at a controlled speed. At the base of the esophagus, the lower esophageal sphincter, a tight muscular ring, senses the approach, relaxes just long enough to allow entry, and then seals shut behind it like an airlock closing. The cookie has entered the second chamber. Welcome to the stomach. And let's be absolutely clear about something. Down here, the cookie is no longer a treat. It is a problem to be solved. The stomach is a muscular bag with extraordinary destructive capability. Its walls contract up to 3 times per minute, churning the contents with relentless mechanical force. Buried within the stomach lining are millions of microscopic gastric pits, glands that secrete hydrochloric acid directly into the mix. This is not a mild acid. With a pH between 1.5 and 3.5, gastric acid is corrosive enough to dissolve certain metals. It sterilizes the food, killing most pathogens, and creates the harsh environment that the digestive enzymes need to function. Pepsin, a powerful protease enzyme, activates in this acidic environment and immediately goes to work, dismantling the gluten proteins from the flour and the casein proteins from the butter and milk chocolate. It doesn't break them down gently. It snips them at specific molecular bonds, reducing complex protein structures into shorter chains called peptides. The chocolate, unable to resist the heat and churning, melts first, releasing its fats into a rich, lipid-heavy slurry. The sugar crystals dissolve. The carefully constructed texture of the cookie, that satisfying crunch, that gooey center, is gone entirely. What was once a recognizable food is now a churning, gray-brown, acidic sludge called chyme. It looks nothing like what went in. It never does. For 2 to 4 hours, the stomach processes the cookie, mixing, acidifying, breaking, and testing. When the particle size finally drops below a critical threshold and the chemistry is right, a small muscular gate at the base of the stomach, the pyloric sphincter, begins to open in rhythmic pulses, metering the chyme into the next stage in small, controlled, pressurized bursts. The stomach doesn't dump, it doses. The small intestine is where the real transformation happens. The moment acidic chyme hits the duodenum, the first segment of the small intestine, 2 organs respond with immediate, coordinated precision. The pancreas floods the duodenum with bicarbonate, a powerful alkaline solution that neutralizes the incoming acid almost instantly, protecting the delicate intestinal walls from burning. Simultaneously, it releases a cocktail of digestive enzymes: lipase to dismantle the fats, amylase to finish processing the remaining starches, and multiple proteases to complete the destruction of proteins. At the same moment, the gallbladder, a small green pouch nestled beneath the liver, contracts and squeezes a surge of bile into the mix. Bile is not an enzyme, it's an emulsifier, a biological detergent produced from cholesterol in the liver. It attacks the large fat globules in the chyme like soap attacks grease, shattering them into millions of microscopic droplets called micelles. This explosion of surface area allows lipase enzymes to reach the fats they couldn't touch before. Now the nutrients are finally small enough to be absorbed. The walls of the small intestine are not smooth. They are covered in millions of finger-like projections called villi, each one covered in even tinier projections called microvilli, creating a combined absorptive surface area equivalent to a full-size tennis court folded inside your abdomen. This is engineering at its most extreme. Every square millimeter matters. Glucose molecules are actively pumped through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream, a process requiring energy because the body prioritizes capturing every available calorie. Amino acids follow through their own dedicated transport channels. But fats, too large and water repellent for direct blood entry, are repackaged inside intestinal cells into massive transport vessels called chylomicrons and released into the lymphatic system, the body's secondary circulatory network, where they will eventually merge with the bloodstream near the heart. The cookie has been completely disassembled. Now the distribution begins. The sugars and amino acids race through the hepatic portal vein directly to the liver, the body's central processing unit, chemical factory, and metabolic decision maker, all in one. The liver sees everything that arrives in the blood. It reads the composition. It detects the sugar spike, and within seconds, it begins executing a decision tree of extraordinary complexity. If the body needs immediate fuel, glucose flows into general circulation to power the brain, muscles, and organs. If glycogen stores in the liver and muscles have space, the glucose is converted and packed away as glycogen, dense molecular chains that can be quickly unpacked when energy is needed. But if glycogen tanks are already full, as they often are in modern, sedentary life, the liver initiates a process called de novo lipogenesis, the industrial conversion of excess sugar into triglycerides, which are then packaged and shipped to fat tissue for long-term storage. The cookie is becoming body fat, and it starts in the liver, not in the fat cells. Meanwhile, blood glucose is still rising. The pancreas detects the surge with specialized beta cells and launches its counter-offensive, insulin. Insulin molecules flood the bloodstream, molecular keys engineered to fit perfectly into receptors on muscle and fat cells. When they dock, they trigger GLUT4 transporter channels to migrate to the cell surface and open wide, gateways that allow glucose to pour into the cells like water through a floodgate. The cells accept the delivery. The blood sugar begins to fall. Inside the mitochondria, the cell's power plants, the real combustion begins. Glucose enters the citric acid cycle, a spinning metabolic engine that strips electrons from sugar molecules in a tightly choreographed sequence. Those electrons cascade through the electron transport chain, releasing energy that powers ATP synthase, a nanoscale molecular turbine rotating at thousands of revolutions per minute, snapping together ATP molecules one by one. ATP is the body's universal energy currency. Every movement, every thought, every heartbeat is purchased with it. For a brief, brilliant window of time, every cell in your body is running on that single cookie. But combustion is never clean. High-speed metabolism leaks electrons. Those escaped electrons collide with oxygen to form free radicals, unstable reactive particles that ricochet through the cell, striking proteins, puncturing membranes, and damaging DNA like molecular shrapnel. This is oxidative stress, and it is the hidden cost of every calorie you burn. The body's antioxidant systems, glutathione, superoxide dismutase, mobilize immediately to neutralize the damage. Most of the time, they succeed. But a high sugar, high fat payload leaves microscopic traces, cellular wear, inflammatory signals, a cost that compounds over time, one cookie at a time. What the muscles don't burn, the body keeps in adipose tissue. The body's long-term storage network distributed beneath the skin and around the organs. Excess triglycerides from the cookie's butter and the liver's converted sugars are delivered and tucked into waiting fat cells. The cell membranes stretch, the cells expand. Droplets of liquid fat accumulate inside, pushing the cell's nucleus to the outer edge. This is not a malfunction. This is an ancient, deeply intelligent survival algorithm. The body preparing for a famine that, in the modern food environment, almost never arrives. The indigestible fibers from the cookie, the parts no human enzyme can break down, continue their journey into the colon, where trillions of gut bacteria wait. These microbes ferment the fiber, producing short-chain fatty acids that nourish the colon lining, regulate inflammation, and signal satiety to the brain. Even the waste is used. The colon reclaims water. The kidneys filter the final metabolic byproducts and dissolve them into urine. The digestive system, after hours of relentless labor, gradually quiets. The journey is complete. That single chocolate chip cookie, once a recognizable, handheld treat, has been completely disassembled, distributed, and repurposed. Some of it is now heat, radiating gently from your skin. Some of it fired a neuron that became a memory. Some of it reinforced a cell wall in your intestine, your liver, your heart muscle. Some of it is, right now, structurally part of you. The blood sugar steadies. The insulin retreats. Mitochondria slow their spin. The body returns to its quiet, watchful resting state, monitoring, maintaining,
preparing. And somewhere in the reward circuits of your brain, almost imperceptibly, the craving begins again. The body never stops working. The only question that matters is, what are you giving it to work with?